your destiny. TheorySabers.com. Let's take a look at one of the most dangerous moments in Star Wars history, Darth Vitiate's Dark Ritual. This isn't just another Sith power play or a simple conquest for more territory. We're talking about something on a different scale entirely. It's the kind of dark side move that goes beyond just ruling or destruction. Vitiate's ambitions were bigger, more terrifying. This is a Sith Lord who almost wiped out all life in the galaxy. So, yeah, that's where we're going today. Let's break it all down. To really understand why this moment is such a huge deal, you have to understand who Darth Vitiate was, and more importantly, how he thought. His obsession with immortality, with ultimate control over life and death. This was a guy who wasn't just content with sitting on a throne and ruling over star systems. Vitiate didn't just want to rule the galaxy, he wanted to consume it. You'll see what I mean as we get into it. So let's start with who Darth Vitiate was. He was born as Tenebrae on the planet Medrias, which after a certain point you probably know as Nathema. From an early age, he wasn't just powerful, he was dangerous. And I mean that in the most literal sense possible. By the time he was 10, Tenebrae had already wiped out his family. His father, gone. His entire home village, erased. And that was just the beginning. As a kid, he was ruthless. But it wasn't reckless anger or some aimless destruction. Nah, everything Tenebrae did was calculated. That's the key to understanding Vitiate. He was cold, methodical. Every action served a larger purpose. At 13, he caught the attention of Darth Marka Ragnos, the Sith Lord in charge at the time. Now, if you know anything about Sith history, you'll know that Ragnos didn't hand out respect easily. The fact that he saw potential in this kid, now that's saying something. Ragnos gave him the title Lord Vitiate, but really, that title barely scratches the surface of what Vitiate would become. What makes Vitiate stand out is that he didn't just want to climb the Sith hierarchy. He wasn't satisfied with being another Sith Lord, or even the Dark Lord of the Sith. He wanted more. He wanted immortality, complete dominion over life and death, and to do that, he'd need power unlike anything we've seen before in Star Wars. That's where his Dark Ritual comes into play. To pull off his plan, Vitiate summoned 8,000 Sith Lords to his home world, Nathema, under the pretense of a Sith ritual that would strengthen the Empire. But, as you'd expect, he wasn't there to share power. In typical Sith fashion, Vitiate had his own agenda. He intended to drain every last one of them, along with every living thing on Nathema, to fuel his own immortality. Think about that for a second. 8,000 Sith Lords. That's not an exaggeration. It's not a symbolic number. That's how many he had gathered. And when the ritual started, he didn't just kill them, he drained them. It was an act of dark side sorcery on a scale the galaxy had never seen before. This wasn't a quick, easy kill. Vitiate stripped the life force out of every single one of them, leaving Nathema a barren wasteland, completely devoid of life. I think what makes this moment stand out is the sheer emptiness that it left behind. This wasn't just a massacre or a planetary destruction. This was something beyond that. Nathema became what we call a wound in the Force, and that means quite literally, the Force didn't exist there anymore. Not the light side nor the dark. Nothing. Imagine a planet so drained of life that even the Force can't be felt there. That's what Vitiate did. And honestly, when I first read about this in the Revan novel, I remember feeling this sense of dread. Like, Sidious was bad, sure, but Vader was really terrifying, but this guy was just next level. Or maybe it's the fact that he had access to 8,000 Sith Lords that Palpatine didn't have access to. Perhaps it's the benefit of being in a different time. Vitiate wasn't just playing with the power of life and death, he was rewriting it. After the ritual was done, Nathema wasn't just empty, it was hollow. There's this eerie void left behind when a planet is drained like that. And if you ever played Star Wars The Old Republic, you'll know that when you visit Nathema, there's this unsettling quiet, this sense that something is fundamentally wrong. The Force is just gone. A really haunting passage in the Essential Guide to the Force that talks about Nathema and how those who visited it couldn't stay long. The emptiness was too overwhelming. It's not just a place where nothing grows, it's a place where nothing can grow. The The Force itself refuses to touch it. It's a wound, a scar left behind by Vitiate's greed. By draining the life force of an entire planet, he succeeded in extending his life indefinitely. He didn't age. He became the literal embodiment of the dark side's hunger for life. And the scariest part was that this was just step one of his plan. What he did on Nathema, he wanted to do on a galactic scale. What did he do with all of this power? He didn't exactly go off to live quietly in some dark corner of the galaxy like Thanos, for example. No, Vitiate declared himself the Emperor of the Sith, and he ruled for over 1,300 years. That's right, he ruled for longer than Yoda lived, longer than the lifespan of pretty much anyone that we've seen in Star Wars. And what's interesting is, despite being immortal, Vitiate still wasn't content. He wasn't one of those Sith who would just sit on a throne and enjoy his power. His ultimate goal was to perform the same ritual that he did on Nathema, but on a galactic scale. He wanted to drain the life force from every living being in the galaxy until nothing was left. He wanted to consume the galaxy, ascend to godhood, and remake the universe in his image. This was bigger than any Sith empire, bigger than any war for control. He wanted to reshape reality itself. Now, obviously, the Jedi and the Republic weren't going to just sit back and let this all happen. They'd been fighting the Sith Empire for centuries, but Vitiate was on a whole different level. The Jedi knew that he was powerful, but they didn't realize just how dangerous he really was until it was almost too late. One of the most significant battles in the whole saga took place on Ziost. Vitiate had planned to perform his next dark ritual there, and if it wasn't for the intervention of the Jedi and the Republic, he might have actually succeeded. The battle for Ziost was brutal, and while the Jedi managed to stop him from completing the ritual, it still came at a massive cost. Much of the planet was drained of life, just like Nathema. Even in defeat, Vitiate left a graveyard behind. It's moments like this that really highlight the scale of Vitiate's ambitions. He wasn't just another Sith Lord with an army, he was something else entirely. And the fact that the Jedi were only barely able to stop him, it shows just how close the galaxy came to being consumed. And imagine if it was. Imagine how things would have been different. Vitiate's legacy is one of unimaginable power, but also of obsession. His drive for immortality, for ultimate control, led him to do things that no other Sith Lord would even consider. And what's even more terrifying is that after his death, Vitiate's influence lingered. His spirit haunted the galaxy, and there were whispers that he could transfer his essence into other vessels, allowing him to continue his reign in the shadows. In the end, Vitiate stands as a cautionary tale, a Sith Lord whose ambitions nearly wiped out all of life in the galaxy. His dark ritual on Nathema serves as a reminder of what the dark side can do when left unchecked. It's not just about power, it's about consuming everything in its path. Now I ask you guys, what do you think? Was Darth Vitiate the most dangerous Sith Lord in history, or was he just another Sith who took things too far? And as always, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.